Chef. It's Abby and Hannah again. How are you doing? Hope you're doing great. This is our presentation on our trifectins. As you can see here, we got our control formula from our chocolates book from our lovely chef Peter Brewling. We inserted a photo here in case you don't know what he looks like. He's quite the character. I hope you enjoy.
So as far as the history goes, Gianduja dates back to 1861 after the rationing of cocoa during the turbulent years following the Napoleonic Wars. The cash-strapped Italian government increased the import taxes on certain goods, which included cocoa beans, which threatened the livelihoods of many chocolatiers in Italy. Legend has it that the ever-resourceful Pierre Caffarel, the founder of Caffarel Chocolates, began to try recipes with higher proportion of local ingredients, including the famous Piedmontese hazelnut. Prior to being connected to chocolate, Gianduja was known for something else. It was the name of a famous mask and character of an Italian form of theater.
This is the first part of our bibliography. This is the second part of our bibliography. We cited many sources clearly.
So this is our control. We got it from our Chocolates and Confections book from Hyde Park. The three main components of it are white chocolate, milk chocolate, and dark chocolate Gianduja with a tempered dark chocolate top. And our surveys showed that it was just magically delicious.
Our first variation of the Gianduja was the sesame duja or the sesduja. Basically all we really did to change this one was we replaced the we replaced the almonds and the hazelnuts in the Gianduja with sesame seeds. This worked out really well because sesame seeds have a very similar fat content to almonds and other nuts. So yeah, as you can see in the photo, it looks really, really similar to the control, other than maybe the evenness of the layers. We got a little rough on the spreadage there. But yeah, everybody overall really liked it. We had a 4.13 out of 5 as our average survey score. There's more details about the survey in our paper. On this slide, we really just have the things we changed, what we polled about, and what we kept the same in our from the control recipe. We kept pretty much everything the same in the control recipe except for the nuts, which we switched to sesame, like I said before. We only had to test this out once because it was pretty successful the first time, considering the change wasn't super drastic. We got really lucky with that one. And yeah, we're proud of how it came out. Our second variation was the bean-based Gianduja, or the bean duja. The infamous bean duja really like to be a pain in the butt, but we had to do 5 different tests for this bean duja. The whole goal was to replace the nuts with the beans and an extra fat, since there's not too much fat or any fat in beans. So yeah, that was the main goal. It was semi-successful, but I'll go in more detail in the next slide. So the bean duja, like I said before, was very tricky. The first 3 trials we messed around with using the beans on their own, just straight out of the can, rinsed and dried, along with fats in order to add the fat needed that wasn't contained in the beans. The moisture was a real issue for us because there is typically no moisture in a Gianduja since it's just made out of fat and nuts and chocolate. So the moisture was preventing the Gianduja from setting. We even left a batch overnight to see if it would crystallize, and it didn't make any progress in the 24 hours. So then our 4th and 5th trials, we dehydrated the beans and then ground them up with the fat to remove that excess moisture, which did result in it setting quite nicely, except it set a little bit too much, so it was really stiff. We wouldn't have been able to cut it on a guitar. So that's something we would definitely improve upon if we had more time. We would up the liquid oil content over the solid oil content to try to make that texture a little bit smoother and similar to the control.
This is our third variation of the cake, or the cake duja. Yeah, we experimented with this one quite a bit. For our first trial, we used 3 Dacquoise and 3 fouilletine layers to try and mimic the color and the layering of the control. We liked the flavor profile it provided, but we're not satisfied with the presentation. The fouilletine wasn't adhering to the cake well, so we decided to redo it in a layer cake format. This one, we liked the presentation, but the flavor wasn't prominent whatsoever. So if we had the time to perform a third trial, we were going to soak the cakes in Liquids, so we were planning on soaking the white chocolate one in creme de cocoa, the milk chocolate one in sweetened condensed milk, and the dark chocolate one in espresso or coffee to pronounce these flavors more. For the independent variable, we completely took out the physical nuts in this one and transformed the appearance completely into a different type of dessert. For the dependent variables, we were still evaluating the texture, appearance, color, and flavor. And for the controls, we kept the type of chocolate that we used from the control the same in the cake, and we also incorporated the original hazelnut filling in the buttercream to mimic the control.
Okay, last but not least, we have the fruit flavored Gianduja, or the Fruit Duja. We got our flavor profile inspired from a Malibu Sunrise, which is a tropical beverage that Abby typically chooses to enjoy sometimes. I don't, Jeff, because I am not 21. I do not do that. So the Fruit Duja, uh, we didn't have as much time to test out as we would have liked. So we did only 2 tests for the coconut layer and then another 3 with the orange and 1 with the cherry because the cherry and the orange were very similar. So the coconut one, the first trial we did, we had desiccated coconut, and we also made a Malibu sugar by rubbing Malibu rum into sugar and then dehydrating it. We tested it out. It set really successfully. The texture was really nice, except we didn't get that coconut flavor we really wanted to. So the next time we did it, we upped the amount of Malibu in the sugar, and we also upped the amount of desiccated coconut. Set great, awesome. The orange, we had a little bit more trouble with. We first added orange zest and orange food coloring in an attempt to create those really bright colors and also to have the bright flavor of the orange, but it ended up seizing, as you can see in a picture in the paper that we also submitted. It ended up seizing because of the moisture added into the gianduja, so that didn't end up very well. Then the next time we tried it with just the orange zest because we thought the food coloring was the reason for the seizing, but it was not. The moisture from the orange zest is what caused it to seize. Then the last time we tried it, we dehydrated the orange zest and then added candied orange peels in order to add that extra orange flavor that we really were going for. Like I said before, the cherry layer was really similar to the orange layer. We made a cherry liqueur sugar, which worked out pretty well the first time. And then we also just added chopped up dried cherries to add that lovely cherry flavor, along with food dye to get that nice bright red color. So that one we only had to test out once because it was pretty much the same process as the orange one. In the future, we would probably try to make the flavors a little bit more bright and artificial in a way because we weren't able to get like the maraschino cherry flavor that we were going for in the gianduja without adding like maraschino cherry juice that we could think of. So the dried cherry just didn't get that point across very well. But other than that, we would have loved to have gotten photos, but the time's not a lot for that. So I hope you enjoyed the happy fruits in the prior slide. Okay, so major findings. In the sesame, we found out that sesame is very much an acquired taste. We had mostly positive feedback, but there were a couple people that were like, I can't stand the sesame, it's really strong. So that was something we learned. Also, we discovered that the sesame acts really similar to the gianduja, or to the almonds in the gianduja, and that's because they have very similar fat contents. Bean, one of our findings was the unpleasant gritty texture. We believe that's due to the fact that an almond butter is an emulsion, and the bean and oil sort of mixture we did not emulsify, it was more of a suspension. Another thing we discovered was that the extra moisture prevented the gianduja setting properly. In the cake, we discovered that it was too dense due to the overfolding of the batter, and then also that the presentation of the cake needed more improvement. We're thinking about in the future adding like syrups to it and more chocolate deco to sort of mimic the look of the top of our candies. Lastly, the fruit. Gianduja, we realized that the orange zest was causing the seizing due to the liquid in the orange zest and the extra oils, I'm assuming. And then also the flavor of the zest was lost through dehydrating. That's all.
So improvements for next time for the sesame one, we honestly couldn't think of anything we could improve on because sesame is a acquired taste. You either like it or you hate it. We liked it, so we went with it for our final. For the bean one, we would like to soften the product so it would cut easily by a guitar and we wouldn't try to break our knives when trying to cut it by hand. And we also would like to improve the texture even more, find a way to grind up the beans so we don't have that unpleasant grittiness that everyone mentioned in our surveys. For the cake, we would find a formula that is either less dense or we would just fold the batter less. We would also soak the cakes to bring out more flavor and add a garnish like we mentioned in the past slide to mimic the top of our candy. For the fruit one, we would like to have more prominent flavors and use more artificial flavorings, which we were not allowed to use this time. And we would like to color them better in accordance to the coconut, orange, and cherry flavors we were trying to pull off. For the application, we were well aware of allergy awareness by using 2 nut alternatives to recreate the control. The 6 most common tree nut allergies are walnut, almond, hazelnut, pecan, cashew, and pistachio. We simplified the task by creating a cake that could appeal more to children by simplifying the flavor profile. Most kids would prefer cake over a confection that they don't know anything about, and we also aim to grab the attention of our peers by utilizing fun colors in the fruit-based one, which are more eye-catching than the original trifection.